Hello there everybody, this is Krista and welcome back to the Krista Chronicles, and today we are going through some decks that I'm bringing out for spring. I am so excited that spring is quickly arriving. It has turned into one of my favorite seasons. It used to not be, but now that gardening season is upon us, my crocuses are up, my snowdrops are up, I'm excited, I love it. So, what I decided to do today is because I feel like I could have picked so many decks because I love this season. And yeah, I didn't want to sit here and make you all look at like 50 different decks. So how I narrowed it down is I decided to pick 5 tarot and 5 oracle that have not been out the whole rest of the year, that I am just really felt the most excited to bring out now that it's spring, because I do work with my decks very seasonally, so I do have a selection of decks that they feel like spring to me, and I generally don't use them unless it's like spring, summer. A lot of these they mix into summer too, but yeah, that's what we're doing today. So let's start with the, oh, do I want to start? No, let's start with the tarot. That's what's here. Starting with the Faery Tarot from Lo Scarabeo. This is illustrated by Antonio Lupatelli, which, oh my gosh. He illustrated a lot of children's books that are absolutely gorgeous. We have one at the library I work for, and I love it so much. Oh my gosh, my brain just froze. Anyway, this one feels really particularly spring to me. This sort of like bluish turquoise background. And to me, fairies are such a quintessential spring and summer thing, but since I love fairies so much, and I have quite the selection of fairy decks, they really do end up getting divided between like this one feels like spring and this one feels more like summer. And this one definitely falls into spring for me. We get a lot of those pastels, a lot of, like, we get these little flower fairies, a lot of baby birds. Oh my gosh, I love it so much. It's a quirky deck for sure, with these different symbols on there. So pretty. That Empress, oh my gosh. It's one of those ones where I could like look at it forever. I do sometimes wish that instead of this, that there was just a tarot title on there, so that it didn't cover up any of the image, but I guess they do kind of stick it in the sky. Like, look at this. Yeah, and this is one that I keep the little white book in the box, which I don't usually do, but I always seem to mix up what the different symbols are, like the acorns and the bells. I think I always want to put acorns as pentacles, but I believe it's the bells that are the pentacle suit. And the only way I can remember that is because I'm like Animal Crossing, money, bells. But yeah, this one is, it's so cute and beautiful. Like, how spring is that? Just, every spring that comes around, I'm like, yes! And I edged it in this pink color. I love it so much. So that is the Fairy Tarot. There is another Fairy Tarot out from Lo Scarabeo that I don't have it. I think a Tarot of the Fairy People, but I'm curious about it. It looks cool. All right, next up, the Peculiar Pathways Tarot. Now this one feels like it definitely could be an all-year kind of deck, but for some reason in my brain I'm just like, spring, like it's got this real spring green color, all of these florals, and the colors that do show up in here feel very pastel, like that happy kind of spring feeling is what this deck really reminds me of. Like, the way the feeling outside completely shifts with daylight savings always fascinates me, and I forget about it every single year, but we just had daylight savings last weekend, and feeling like there's all that extra daylight, I don't know, it adds a whole other feeling in the air, and I don't know how to explain it other than this deck feels like that feeling. And yeah, so I do technically have this one out all year round, but I don't know, I'm just getting this feeling that now that spring has arrived, I'm like, ooh, this is this deck's time. Doesn't it feel so spring? And I think, okay, here's my hot take of the day, because another deck I do bring out, I don't have it in this selection, is the, oh, am I gonna remember the name? That Earth one. Hold on, I know exactly where it is. That out of print one. Majestic Earth. Very out of print. So I didn't add it in this selection, one, because I was already at my 5, but then also it's very out of print. And now, this deck is very different from that. However, the background images used for these collages, I feel like could have been, like, really could have been the same time period used in the Majestic Earth. But also give that same feeling, and so, well, again, this is totally its own unique thing because it's got this beautiful collage work over that background. I think if you're someone who's been really wanting that Majestic Earth Tarot, I'd look into this, because to me they give a very similar vibe in that way, but then you get all these collaged details and a beautiful book you can add on. I love the book for this tarot. So yeah, really excited about this one. That is the Peculiar Pathways Tarot. Now this next one feels like a spring classic. It feels like it shows up in all the spring deck videos, but I had to add it in because it is newer to me this season. So it is the Tarot de Carlotydes. I doubt I am saying that correctly. Apologies. And I think we all know, first and foremost, it feels spring-like because, hello? Gorgeous. Truly, probably my favorite, if not one of my favorite, if not my favorite, backs. So beautiful. But then the fronts really have this very, like, clean, fresh, bright spring feeling with the colors and this cream border. It really has that crisp spring feeling to it. And again, so I had this deck a long time ago and then ended up rehoming it and then repurchased it this year. And so this is my first, I'm just going to say it's my first spring with it. So I had to bring it in because I'm really excited to use it. Because to me it felt so spring with these pastel colors. And again, it feels like one of those right after daylight savings spring mornings. I know it's technically not spring yet, but it feels like spring where I am. How beautiful. It's fun, it's quirky. I'm really excited to get into this one. So, Tarot de Carlotydes. Alright, then we've got the Stolen Child Tarot. Now this is one of those ones that definitely, to me, gets into that summer territory as well, but because of the colors used, feels very spring. So these are the backs, so beautiful, and also the theming. Oh, those are those little art cards you get, because it shows basically like children morphed into animals. Oh, and I think it's so pretty. But I think because there is such like a youthful element to this deck through the characters, to me that feels very spring. And I'm always excited to bring this one out. The artwork is stunning. This is actually a second copy because the first copy I ever had, I trimmed 3 sides of the border off so that it was borderless, and I did like that. But I don't know. Then I never really ended up using that copy, and came to realize that I think I actually like the borders on this. Truly, years later, I've become a border fan. And I think this artwork really is served well by that border to just kind of contain it a little bit. But yeah, so I got this copy so I could have the full borders, and also so I could shuffle it nicely, because one thing about me is if I'm trimming a deck, I'm not measuring. I just don't measure. I just eyeball it and somewhat kind of measure, so it comes out a little uneven. So riffle shuffling does not become super possible. It's awkward. It's an awkward riffle shuffle. And so at that point it didn't matter because I didn't know how to riffle shuffle, but now I do, and it feels important to me to riffle shuffle, so yeah. Anyway, I love this deck. I think it's gorgeous, and oh man, I love that Fool so much. And yeah, oh, and I love this Justice card with the bees. So excited about this one, to have it out again. That's the Stolen Child Tarot. Okay, last but not least for the tarots, we've got the Tarot of the Drowning World. This is like, truly feels like such a piece of art to have. They're all photographs done in this basically like boggy, self-made pond, I would call it? I don't know. Where the creator floated a bunch of things and photographed it from bird's eye view. And oh my gosh, how beautiful is this? And this is one I love, of course, bringing on the spring because of all these florals. But there's also, because of that water element, this bit of murkiness to it that to me feels like it really is well suited to spring, because especially right now where there's a few things growing, but there's also, I've still got my fall leaves everywhere, because I prefer to do a spring cleanup to let the leaves sort of create a layer for everything underneath. And so there's still all leaves. I leave all like the dead plants from last year. There's still a lot of like death and decay around, at least in my yard. And so this feels like where those two meet, which when I look outside, it's like there's these little pops of color, but then still these dead plants, which I leave until I see the first bumblebee. Or it's the combination of first dandelion and first bee that I see. Because then I know they're awake, but that they also have the proper things to eat, so that they're going to be out and about for the season. Because some kinds of bees sleep under the leaves, so I leave everything until then. Yeah, and this feels like where they meet. I love it. It's so gorgeous. So that is my last deck I have to show for the tarots I'm excited to bring out for spring. So let's go over to the oracles. Alrighty, so the first oracle I have to show today is my very own Divine Ephemera oracle. Which this one for me, I think just because of the theming, tends to really be slotted in spring and summer. So this oracle, here's the backs, pairs a deity with a plant. And so I really, really enjoy working with this kind of combo of energies come springtime, and this one also, it does carry into the summer. But I think just the florals and the artwork I use, to me, I don't know, it just really feels like spring. Even though there's some cards like this that feel wintry. Something about this sort of, this era of artwork feels spring-like to me. And so, this might have been new last spring. I don't remember. But I used it a whole bunch last season, and then I kind of put it away pretty much for all of fall and winter, and just seems like this is when it feels right to use. So very excited to have this back out again. I'm very proud of this one. Yeah. So that's the Divine Ephemera Oracle. Which is available on Make Playing Cards. That's where all my decks are now, so that everyone can just order as they wish. But I don't have a physical guidebook up right now for this one to purchase, because I'm having trouble with the formatting of it, to be so honest. But if you get a copy and don't have a guide, just message me, email me somewhere. I've got the PDF. I'm happy to, of course, give that out to whoever needs it. So that's that. Next up, we got the Green Witches Oracle deck. Of course. This is the kind of feeling we're going to get into spring. We're going to get plants and fairies and all that good stuff. But this one, to me, I think feels really spring because of this background. This light, very light parchment color, just, I don't know, it gives it a freshness to this deck that really makes me think of spring, even though it's got theming in here that would fit all seasons. This is one that I just find I really like bringing it out come spring. And look at this background. Also feels very spring-like. And this is one that I went back and forth on it. I love this. When I first got it. And really what it is the guidebook, the way it is ordered, to me makes no sense. I don't know if it's like it goes along with the book that this is themed around, but I will say that there's no certain order to it, so it's not like it's alphabetical or that there's at least like numbers on the cards. So every time I'm looking in the guidebook, I have to search around for it, which I do not love. It just doesn't really make sense to me to not have order to follow, or like at least like have a table of contents. Then there's none of that, so I think I was just a little bit salty about that. However, there's some really good keywords and phrases on these cards, so in essence, do I really need the guidebook? No. And is it that? Does it really take that long? No. So I'm coming around to it, and so I want to take it out for the spring, really use it, because it's so pretty, and it is a really good deck. So we've got it out. That's the Green Witch Oracle deck. Okay, and then we've got, oh, this is a spring classic for me. And I almost was like, maybe I shouldn't show it, because I think I've shown it every year for like 3 years, 4 years? I don't know. 4 years was dramatic, maybe 3. Look at that. Are you kidding? The bag? It is the Fountain Fairy, is that what it's called? Fairy, oh my god. See, you'd think I would remember the name, considering it's a favorite, but I don't. I never do. Fairy Temple Oracle. Hello? Yes. I love this deck so much. I don't even know what to say about it. I talk about it every single spring and summer. Since I've gotten it, this was like immediately when I got it, I fell so in love with it. I think this artwork is gorgeous. There's like a true luminosity to it. We get 3 keywords on each card. You get a plant and a fairy. Or I should say that like each fairy is like the fairy of a certain plant, which is so cool. I love that concept. I think the titles are great. It's like the title is already a good keyword every single time, but then you get 3 keywords anyway. Oh, it's so good. It's so... Something about this, I don't really know what to say other than like it just gives me this like really, really, really intense, excited feeling whenever I'm looking at this artwork. And isn't that all we can ask for? Something about just these colors together. I love it. Love it, love it, love it. Oh, it's like it gives me, I don't know, beautiful, like, you know how there's cute aggression? It gives me like pretty aggression. I love it. So that's the Fairy Temple Oracle. Okay. Now our last 2, of course, we had to get into some plant decks. Now for me, like spring, there's plants starting to pop up, but I will say, a lot of my plant decks to me feel very like, I don't really tend to pull them out until very late spring, summer, but I do have these 2 that feel very spring-like to me, starting with the, what is this one called? Oh my gosh. Herbwitch? What? What is it called? Jeez Louise. The one thing about keeping things in bags is that sometimes it's like I know exactly what the deck is, don't ask me the name. Jeez. Herbal. It's the Ciolo Thompson. I'm currently Googling. Hedgewitch. I knew it was some kind of witch. Hedgewitch Botanical Oracle. Jeez. What a classic. I mean, hello, the backs. This to me feels like, I mean, these are dandelions on there. It feels like the first dandelion of the season. I am not usually like this, there's so much white to this. Don't usually love that, but Ciolo Thompson's decks to me, I'm like, no, worth it, worth it. And we do get this splash of color. And I think it's really just, I love the plants in here. I love the guidebook. I love the keyword. It's just everything about this is so good. And I think this white background to me really speaks to spring, because again, it's like it feels like that moment when we're just starting to get these pops of color outside. And so this one I really tend to mostly use in the spring, even though there's a lot of summer plants in here. Oh, I just think it's so gorgeous. And again, the mixture of plants in here, there's so, like trout lily, I've not seen that in another deck. And I love trout lilies, I love them so much. And ferns. It's so, so good. I love this deck so much. So, really excited to have that out again. That's the Hedgewitch Botanical. And last but not least is a new one for me this season. I was also trying to lean away from brand new ones. Really focusing on that, like, these are the ones I am taking out for the season. But I've had this deck for quite some time, and it has been in my... I've got a little, like, one of those cedar chests that hold my decks when it's kind of, like, not their time. And so this has been in there, waiting, for quite a few months now. So I felt like it counted. It's the Apothecary Spirits Oracle. Oh my gosh. Am I so excited for this. Same edging color, I'm realizing now, as the Peculiar Pathways. That spring green. It's so gorgeous. And that... Oh my gosh, I just think this is so, so pretty. Again, this is one I'm sure will carry through the summer, but because of the kind of watercolor work, the pastel colors, and the fact that it's really just these, like, splashes of color, feels very spring to me. So, between this and the Hedgewitch, those are going to be, like, my springtime plant decks. Oh, I love this marigold. Everything about this I think is so great. And I do love that we get some of the tools. I think that's really, really neat as well. And again, there's so many plants in here that I feel like I don't see in my other plant decks. Ugh, I love it. I love it, I love it. It's so luxurious feeling, like it's just a nicely crafted deck. The guidebook is awesome. Beeswax, I love that. I've used it a bit because how could I not? But I knew, when I love this rose card, I was like, I gotta just hold on to this for spring because it's going to feel so right in its right season. I love the plantain card. I'm so excited. I'm so excited this is out. It's just so good. So yeah, really excited about this one. That is my last deck I have to show today that I'm really excited to bring out for spring. So I'd love to know if you all work with decks seasonally like I do. What are you excited to take out for spring? What are you using? I want to know. But other than that, that's all I have for you today. So I hope you're having a great day so far, and I'll see you again very soon.